I created a system for songwriting that has allowed me to be a quick and efficient writer. The first thing to understand is that every successful artist follows these exact same patterns I'm about to show you. If you're struggling with writer's block, or find that your songs are lacking a little bit of spice, or just need another way to gather more inspiration for that next hit, you've come to the right place. I've done songwriting for more than a couple of years now, and I've discovered some patterns that have greatly accelerated my work. I lacked a system for songwriting for so long, and I wish I had someone who shared their secrets when I was starting my music journey. It would have prevented so many mistakes early on. We all start with knowing nothing, and if you're brave enough to keep going despite feeling so uncomfortable, tripping, falling, but always picking yourself back up, then you deserve all the respect in the world, because you did something that a lot of people in this world cannot do. And that is committing to what you love. Some people commit to music because it's a means of protection and preservation. You escape the outside world and you scurry into your own little crawl space and build worlds that other people don't see until you publish the work. Others see it as a way of creating community and connection. The energy you are creating will be received, and when it's with a group of people that you love, you'll stick with it because it's with the people that enjoy your music the most. And sometimes it's just fun to explore something new. You have something inside you that desperately wants to come out. You can't reveal it with anybody because these intense emotions only fit in something like a song. As you grow from the start of your songwriting journey, you attach yourself to these core commitments that you have with the music. This is music for pure reasons, music for music's sake, following your taste. Most of the time, in this mythical process that we call songwriting, the songs know more about us than we know ourselves. That part is completely out of our control, so let's focus on what we can control, with examples from my song, Never Could Have Been. I recommend giving it a full listen before we go any further, because it will give you a greater context into the decisions that were made while we're analyzing it. So feel free to pause here, go take a listen, and come back when you're ready. It's linked below in the description. Okay, now that we have an idea of the song that we're going to break down, here's some techniques that I followed during the creation of this song. Let's break down the writing techniques into fundamental forms. First up, we have visuals. Never need my 1 in a million. How the fuck does it go? You could be the alchemy that turns my heart to stone, yeah. Old strangers lost in a new crowd, but your face will always stand out. When it comes to songwriting, you want your words to paint a picture. I'm imagining a face in the middle of the crowd, and it's her. Someone's particular face is being shown in their mind when that part of the song is being heard. You are painting a mental picture of the person that they were with. Another extremely fundamental and important element in a song is comparing and contrasting. You want to make sure that you have differences, otherwise it will lose that interest and lack the surprise. Comparison just makes your writing more interesting. That can be soft and loud performances, whether that's vocally or in the song. Another way is having a choir vocal versus an individual vocal. You can hear that in the beginning of my song where it's the chorus saying I can never leave you, to the beginning of the verse where it's just the individual vocal, and it just breaks the silence with saying this is the end for us. Another way that is very similar is like the end of the first verse. I would be there for you for every second of every day. You never seem to go. The individual versus the chorus, you tend to create a lot of contrast and variation for the listener. Aside from that, there's also silence, which is a very effective form of contrast, because what better complement is there to sound than silence? And you can hear that in the middle of my second verse where I say, but your face will always stand out. What I do there is I cut off the entire instrumental, and that way it adds more impact and it allows that emotional moment to be felt even more. There's also another thing called call and response. The best way I could describe it is by showing you this example that I made. I just needed your affection. I just needed your attention. I just need you. It's going back and forth between two different melodies, and it's ping-ponging each other. So that's another great way to add variation, to add contrasting elements to your style. Another example is choppy versus langsam. The best way for me to describe this is that you have something that is staccato. So for example, the chorus in the beginning, and then going again back to my first verse where it's just smooth, this is the end for us. So that's my example for choppiness versus langsam, is that you have something that's, you know, you're going down a rhythm rabbit hole and then you break it with a different type of rhythm. Going from staccato to legato, that'll always give you some very exciting variation. It's just a pattern break. A lot of this is just simple pattern breaking. You're staying with one melody consistently and then you switch it up with something else at the end. Establishing a melody and then breaking it with the last one will also help with your songwriting process. Okay, now that we got comparison and contrast out of the way, we can now go into repetition. An easy one, and this can be used for a lot of choruses. You could just repeat the same phrase over and over again. I do this with my song, and I just go, I can never leave, I can never leave you. Adding a lot of repetition, but not too much, can really create that stickiness. And if you have enough repetition in a tasteful way, and this is only something that can be done with practice, you'll discover the right amount of repetition for your song. But not only is the repetition within lyrics, it's also repeated with motifs. Now, motifs are themes or melodies, anything else that's not lyrics, that can be repeated within the song. Next up, we have story elements. And the best way to break this down is by adding themes. The themes throughout this song are examples like love, heartbreak, insecurity, attention-seeking, rejection. All of those themes together add up to become the theme for this song. When you understand what your themes are for your songs, that's when you'll be able to create a framework that'll allow your song to flow more smoothly. Now, aside from theme, there's also another factor, and that's transformation. Is the song taking the main character, which is you or the listener, and is it taking them to a new destination? Not every song needs this. Sometimes all that's required is a vibe, so don't feel like you need to be pressured into any of this. It's all an art form. I'm just trying to give you more resources so that you know which to choose from in the future. Now, in my song, it starts with the main character going through a complicated relationship and ends up breaking it off. But then later on, the main character wishes that they were still together, and there's an immediate regret with the breakup. The takeaway being, I just wish that she would have given me more attention, because maybe then it would have been different, and that's our transformation. Another factor is scenes. This can be internal struggles of the mind, it can be a real location, she keeps coming back in my head, a crowd, a destination, anything is possible in these scenes. This, along with visualization, will really help your song become more concrete in the listener's mind. Another part of the story that you always need to pay attention to is character. Now, the characters in my song, very simple. And this is usually how it's going to go with a lot of songs. It's going to be usually two people at most. For me, it's the main character and the person that he broke up with. Now, this might be a little bit of an extra credit assignment, but it doesn't hurt to learn from the greats, read some books, some poems, and also learn some literary terms. I'll link a couple examples in the description below. Now we have the fundamentals of writing out of the way. The next step we can go into is how we can gather inspiration for your next hit. There are a lot of tools out there for writing inspiration. The one that I use the most is the Rhyme Dictionary, any thesaurus. I feel like there's not a single songwriter out there that hasn't used it. Be sure to use that whenever you run into something. The next one I don't use too much myself, but I know that AI is also a possibility for songwriting. Another form of inspiration is other songs. This will help you notice vocabulary, flow, and pockets that fit into each song. What can you take away from it? What can you make your own? Another source of inspiration that I love to grab from is movies, TV shows, and books. They are the best inspiration for stories. It doubles as a way to gather community, allowing you to make connections with people that are already into the same stuff that you are. Another good source of inspiration is poetry. Do I really need to explain this? Here's some other sources of inspiration that might not be that obvious, like running YouTube videos or any kind of video really in the background on mute. Something about just having that visual stimulation will allow you to have ideas just coming into you as a source. I think it's because it creates this white noise and it allows you to imagine having that song interacting with other visuals and sounds. Another uncommon source of inspiration is Pinterest. Create an algorithm that'll constantly inspire you with dope videos, photography, fashion, poems, and more. This next one sounds obvious, and it's because it is. Live life. The primary source of songwriting is life experience. Get outside your room, take a risk, and you will come back with a story to tell. You will never know what skill or leisure activity is going to come back into your songwriting. There are a lot of things that I've learned from videography and screenwriting and hiking that I've always been able to take back with me to my songs. Another good source of inspiration, working with people. Collaboration. Now, whether this is offline or online, doesn't matter. You're going to learn something about yourself because you are interacting with someone completely new, a blank canvas, and with every experience with another person you have, the more you will understand yourself. And obviously try to cross streams with any of these that I mentioned, because I'm sure that that can create even more inspiration for you. Now, I mentioned earlier that the listener can feel that you're not in it, that you're not being real with them. So what can we do to make it feel real for you when something just isn't working in the studio? The more real it is for you, the more you'll be able to express it in your song, and the more your audience will get invested. I call that a win-win. Now, there are a couple ways to do this. I would tackle subjects with similar emotional energy, such as love and religion, murder and aggression. Now, these are just examples, but whatever association you can come up with will allow you to gain access to the emotion that the song requires, and therefore you'll be able to have a better emotional performance for that song. Another one, and this is for anyone that's shy or afraid to express how they truly feel inside, they just aren't familiar or comfortable with the idea of working with someone in public, or someone judging you or looking at you, or even hearing you or acknowledging your existence. This is to lower your wall. Imagine yourself for a second alone and that nobody in the world exists right now. If you were allowed to express your truth unhindered by any repercussions or social judgment, what would you make? What would you say? What would you feel? How would that work? And sometimes when you're really struggling, maybe you just haven't lived enough, whether that's through your own life experiences or through the experiences of others. Therefore, you should go out and live more and consume more and learn for what works for you. And when all is said and done, there's also one more thing you can do, and that's make more songs. You cannot fast track this process as much as you want to. So the only way for you to get better is to just make more songs consistently. Every week, every day, have a new song idea, have a new beat, have something new written down, a melody, a voice memo, anything. And the more you create, I promise you, the better it will be. Because the way that I started making music is way different than the way that I make it now. Another thing that is very important beyond this is exercising practical doubt. And that is analysis of the self and separating it from your writing. The only way to get better is to take inspiration from what you imagine is the best, or studying the best, and getting to that level that you want. You can't just assume that everything you make is the best it can be. There are always other songs that do something better than you do. Take that inspiration and run with it to create something new and amazing. But with all these choices to add to your songwriting, how do you know when you're finally done? There's always more to add. Knowing when you're done is when you go through the whole list, you add as much as you can, you can't take anything else away. And there's this inner satisfaction that you have a piece of work that is well made to your standards. Earlier I mentioned that following these songwriting patterns will help you make better music. But if you don't have a story that ties it all together, then it's going to make a mess of a song, and it's going to make your release plan way more difficult. So sign up to my newsletter where I talk about the artist journey that I'm on, and I'll send updates on songwriting and production insights, new songs I make, playlists, and more. Thanks for watching.